Hey guys, welcome to the channel. And today I'm going to be breaking down my college basketball way too early top 25, starting with our honorable mentions Indiana, Ohio State, and Purdue. They're not in any particular order, those are just the next three I had off the list. We'll just start with Purdue. They have one of the best coaches in the nation, and Matt Painter. You know, I think it's been 8 years since Purdue hasn't finished in the AP top 25. And so this year, I feel like they have to be at least close in this area, even though they don't have the normal roster talent that they normally do, like ED or Braden Smith, guys like that. But they just have the retention and they have the coaching, and I think they can still do very well this year. Now to Ohio State, they got guys like John Mobley, who's going to be an All Big Ten player, no doubt. And they have Amari Bynum, who's going to make a big jump in year two. But they also lost guys like big losses with Bruce Thornton and Devin Royal, which are going to hurt a lot. But I still feel very confident in them. But I just don't trust Jake Diebler as much. So kind of like the opposite of Purdue in that situation where they have the talent, but not as much the coach. Next, we got Indiana, who had one of the best off seasons of the Big Ten, in my opinion, and was really just great off season. They got guys like Marcus Burton and Aiden Sherrill, who are going to be huge this year for them. And really, I think it can be one of their years where they really just take a step back up and back to that Indiana that we used to know. Starting the actual top 25, we got Missouri. Um, I really just think they have the roster talent to really compete this year, and they were good 2 years ago. I just had a down year, in my opinion. They got Jason Crow, and they have one of my favorite players in the Big 12 last year, and Bryson Tiller. He was just everywhere wherever I watched Kansas play. I'm really excited to see him going into his redshirt sophomore season, just seeing how he can just progress and how he's going to improve. Next, we got Villanova, who's got guys like Devin Royal and Kwame Evans, and looking to contend in a somewhat weaker Big East. The Big East still has teams like UConn and St. John's, but St. John's isn't the team that really I think a lot of people are hoping, especially with the injury from the kid from Syracuse. And so I really think this could be a good year with their second year head coach and keep progressing on that. And now we got Kansas, which kind of stinks to see them this low, but they just had zero roster retention. They pretty sure they retained two scholarship players and Cole Rosario and Paul Mbaya, who really just didn't affect the game really at all. Like I think Cole Rosario maybe averaged like 4 points a game, and Paul Mbaya was just lost every time I saw him on the court. But they do have a great recruiting class, including two 5 stars, Taylon Kinney and Tyron Stokes, which I'm not very impressed with what I saw at the U18 game from Taylon Kenny, but I still feel super high on Tyron. How can you not be? And I'm very excited to see Leroy Blyden turn into shape for them. And now we got Iowa State at 22. You know, I think Otzelberger is one of my favorite coaches in the nation, and he's just been so solid these past couple of years. And so, especially with the year two from Killian Torre, it's going to be very difficult to keep them out of the running for the Big 12. Got to the next bit. Uh, so 21, I got UCLA. You know, UCLA, I feel like they have one of the best home court advantages in the nation. Not a lot of people talk about it, but when they're at home, they're extremely hard to beat. This year, they lost a lot, and Donovan Dent and Tyler Bilodeau, but they still have Trent Perry, who was a beast for them last year, and now Jalen Petty from Texas Tech is coming. I think they can be really strong, and honestly, what I think is going to be a weaker Big Ten than last year. So now we got Miami, Florida, who really I'm just really excited about there. You got Jay Lucas, who's one of the best up and coming coaches heading into year two. You got Caden Lewis, who's going to be a dog. I feel extremely confident with them, and I really think they can jump up to be one of the top teams in the ACC this year. I got USC. I think they have one of the best rosters in the sport, but it's just USC. They haven't done anything with their rosters recently. Eric Musselman hasn't been good since he left Arkansas, and it's just they might have guys like Rodney Rice and Elijah Arenas, but just what's going to happen with them, you know? But their roster talent is unbelievable. If Musselman can figure those players out, they can be really solid. Now, Kentucky at 18, it's going to be difficult for them. You know, a lot of criticism in the offseason. Depending on this year, it's Mark Pope's last year, and he's got to really be good here. But you still have Malachi Moreno, who decided to come back, and Milan Momcilovic, who was unbelievable last year for Iowa State and really is, like, my opinion, a top 10 player in the sport. So when you got those two guys, it's going to be pretty hard to stay out of the top 25. Now at 17, I have Nebraska. I think I'm a lot higher than them than most. But you look at them, they have Braden Frager and Price Sanford, who's at least the best wing duo in the Big Ten, let alone like one of the top ones in the nation for sure. It's just besides that, what they lost Lawrence, Sam Hoiberg, Rank Mast. They just lost a lot, and especially at the guard depth, they need someone to get those wings the ball. But really, I think after that really good year, I think Fred Hoiberg's going to get them there. They're just back in the top 25. Definitely not the same season they had last year, but still pretty good. You got Houston at 16. Not gonna lie, I'm a Houston hater. Not a big Houston guy. They lost a lot. They lost Fleming, obviously Sharp, and now they and Chris Sinak, and they still have JoJo Tugler, but he's not an offensive guy. You know, I think they lost a lot. I'm not that big of a Dayton Thomas guy, but it's still Houston. So I think 16 is probably a little low for them, but I'm just not a Houston guy. What can you do? And 15, you got Gonzaga. You still have Mark Few, Braden Huff senior year. Losing St. Superi is going to be tough, but I just can't imagine them falling out farther than around 15. It's just Gonzaga. What are you going to do? 14, we got St. John's. We got Patino, and they still have Tunde Yesufu. Even after losing the kid from Syracuse, who's going to be huge for them, I still feel really confident with them. And I think the Big East is going to be better this year than they were last year. So it's going to be a battle for them to like win out in the Big East, but like they have the past 2 years. But I think they can definitely still do it with the roster, and obviously Patino is one of the best coaches in the nation, no doubt. You got Alabama at 13. I feel like they'll be good. You know, you still got Aiden Holloway, Nate Oates is their coach. You got Amari Allen coming back for them. And you know, there's not really many bad things I can say about it. There's not as many like upsides for them. I think there's gonna be Alabama again. You know, same team they've been for the past couple of years. There's not much that's really gonna change. I got Virginia at 12. Fun fact: Virginia is actually ranked second per Bart Torvik for preseason, and I see it. They have a lot of retention, but just not that good. You know, I really am excited for Ryan Odom, but I think there's just better teams ahead of them. And for number 11, we got Arkansas with Coach Cal. I think this is his year to really like be at one of the top teams in the SEC and really cement himself as like hopefully a top 3 seed in March, and he can really get there, have an easier path, and make a deep run. And especially with this roster, I feel like it's very good. You know, and especially with Billy Richmond back, they're gonna be really nice. 10, you got Arizona. So you got Tommy Lloyd as the head coach. You know, he's gonna be great. You know, you also got guys like Mo Krivas and Karchenkov returning, and one of my favorite freshmen, Caleb Holt. He's going to be a beast for them. And I think this is the Big 12 has kind of taken a step down this year compared to the last couple of years with Houston not being as good. Kansas, I don't think this is going to be as good. So I think this can be another top year for Arizona. 9, you got Tennessee. You know, it's amazing what they did in the offseason, bringing Juke Harris and like Data Ames. I think they'll be really solid. They just don't have the bigs, you know? Yeah, I just don't feel confident with them. And they got so many great guards coming in, but got to put five people on the court. You can't have five guards out there. Number eight, you got Michigan. Their starting five is unbelievable. You got Mustafa Cham, 7'2 center, rim protector at the five, JP Estrella, and then you got Brandon McCoy, 5-star freshman, former number one kid in the class for a bit until Tyron Stokes took it. And then you got Trey McKinney, who averaged 9 points a game as a freshman last year off a stacked team. He's going to be amazing. He's probably going to be like all Big Ten. And they got Elliot Cadeau, who we know is amazing. He for sure is also going to be all Big Ten. You know, you got those guys, but you look past that amazing starting five. You got really just no depth. I think the only player you can look to who's going to be like somewhat good there is All American Quinn Costello, but he's a freshman. You know, and with new coach Mike Boynton, it's going to be difficult first season, but the roster is still amazing. I believe in them. Now for our top seven, number seven, we got Louisville. Their roster is just unbelievable. You got Flory Brunga, who's probably going to be the best center, or at least in my opinion, he is. And you got Shellstad, you got Woolley returning, Carter Knox, Bulgaris, Obina Ezike. I think it's the top center in this class. It's just unbelievable. Well, if Pat Kelsey wasn't their coach, I think I'd have them number one just based on roster talent. But Pat Kelsey just hasn't done much, you know. I don't think he hasn't gotten to the second weekend of March, and he's had like decent regular seasons, but I just need to see more from him. Number six, we got Texas. You know, their front court is going to be unstoppable. You know, you have Punch and then Vocatitis. It's just going to be so hard to beat. You know, I think that's really, in my opinion, second best front court in the sport. Too bad the best one is still in their conference in Florida, returning three NBA front court players, but they're just going to be beasts. Number five, we have Michigan State. They are returning the favorite for preseason player of the year, and Jeremy Fears. Still returning Cohen Carr, who's the most electric player in the nation, and they with a top five recruiting class, and only losing two actual players from last season. I think they can really just make that jump to being at the top of the Big Ten again. Number four, we got UConn. It's UConn. What are you going to do? They're going to be at the top of the Big East, top of the sport every single year. You got Dan Hurley there. Braylon Mullins is coming back. Silas Demery. They did lose Solo Ball, but he was bad last year for him. He was inefficient. He doesn't play defense, and really like it hurts see him like be hurt out for the season, but it's really not the end of the world for them. I think they're going to be great no matter what. Number three, you got Illinois. They're going to have the best offense in the sport. There's no doubt. You have Vox coming in, Quinn Coleman, 5-star, David Mirkovic, who's just expected to have one of the biggest jumps in the sport from coming off that freshman season off to his sophomore. You got Andrei Stojakovic and both the Avicii's brothers. That offense is going to be electric. I don't know a single team that will be even close to stopping them. Thing is, can they play defense? I think Vox coming in, he's going to be one of the probably the worst defender in the Big Ten. It's going to be bad. And you just look at their team last year, and they weren't good last year. And their only like positive defender was Kylan Boswell, and they just lost that and replaced it with one of the worst defenders in the transfer portal, honestly. So we'll see how that goes, but their offense will just be unlike anything I think we've ever seen. And then two, we got Florida. They returned three NBA frontcourt players, including Thomas Haug, who is up there with preseason player of the year. I think he can do it. You know, there's nothing in my mind. If he plays at the top of his game, he'll win it for sure. You know, and you got Condon, Ruben Chinliu, I think that's how you say it. But you look at their backcourt; they didn't replace anything, they didn't fix anything. You got Klabzard, who's going to hopefully step into the role that Xavier Lee played. Hopefully better. You're just kind of hoping and praying that Boogie Flan progresses, but what if he doesn't? You're just the same team last year, and I just don't think they really fixed their problems that they had last year, which had them getting upset in the second round. But still have them number two on my board. Great team. Number one, I just have Duke. I think it's their year. You got the kid from Belmont who I think is gonna be solid. Uh, John Blackwell, amazing. Um, so Cameron Williams, he's gonna be great. Uh, Rippy, and of course you got uh, Boom J. Everything I've been hearing about him, he's supposed to be like the number one pick in 2 years. You can have him, yeah, like even without them, they still would. Even without Boom J, they still would be a top three team. You add him into the roster, and he's supposed to be this 7 foot unicorn who can play as a wing, and it's scary, But as of now, they're my number one overall team. I think I have Duke this year getting it done, but it's pretty late, or pretty early to tell. So